long before modern nations were born. Before airplanes crossed oceans, before gunpowder reshaped battlefields. There existed a land where survival itself was a daily war. The Mongolian steppe, an endless ocean of grass stretching beyond the horizon. Winters here could freeze a man in his sleep. Summers could dry rivers into dust. Food was never guaranteed. Safety was an illusion. In this unforgiving world, only the strongest endured. And from this brutal landscape would rise warriors who would shake the foundations of entire civilizations. Their leader was a man history would remember as Genghis Khan. But he was not born a conqueror. He was born as Temujin, a child of uncertainty, a child of hardship, a child who would learn very early that the world shows no mercy to the weak. When Temujin was just 9 years old, his father was poisoned by rival tribes. Almost overnight, his family lost protection, status, and allies. The tribe that once stood beside them abandoned them without hesitation. Imagine the silence of that moment. The sound of hooves fading into the distance. A small boy standing in the cold wind, realizing he was now alone in a hostile world. Survival became their only goal. They hunted small animals. They gathered roots. They fought hunger, fear, and the constant threat of attack. There were days when death felt closer than hope. Yet somewhere inside this struggling boy, a fire was beginning to grow. Temujin did not simply endure hardship. He learned from it. He learned that trust must be earned, that strength is built through suffering, that destiny is not given, it is taken. As he grew older, he began gathering followers, not kings, not nobles, but outcasts, wanderers, men who had nothing to lose. He offered them something more powerful than wealth. He offered them purpose. In a world where birth decided a man's future, Temujin chose loyalty and ability above all else. This idea was revolutionary. Slowly, his band of warriors transformed into a disciplined brotherhood. They rode together, fought together, believed together. Battle after battle, tribe after tribe. His influence expanded across the steppe. Then came the moment that would change history forever. In the year 1206, after years of bloodshed and ambition, the Mongol tribes gathered beneath a vast, eternal sky. They raised Temujin as their supreme leader. From that day forward, he would be known as Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. Under his command, the Mongols became something the world had never seen before. They were not just fighters. They were a perfectly moving war machine. Each warrior rode multiple horses, allowing them to travel extraordinary distances without slowing down. They carried powerful composite bows, capable of striking enemies from incredible range. They could attack, disappear, and strike again before their opponents even understood what was happening. But their greatest weapon was not speed. It was fear. Cities were given a choice: surrender and live, resist and be erased from existence. Stories of Mongol destruction spread faster than their armies. Walls that once symbolized strength now felt like traps. Kingdoms that had stood for centuries began to fall one after another. Northern China, Central Asia, Persia. Brilliant cities filled with scholars, merchants, and artists were reduced to ashes beneath the thunder of hooves. To many, the Mongols seemed like a force of nature. Unstoppable, unpredictable, merciless. Yet Genghis Khan was more than a destroyer. He understood that conquering land was only the beginning. He built laws to maintain order, protected trade routes to encourage prosperity, allowed different religions to coexist within his empire. Through both fear and structure, He shaped the largest land empire the world had ever known. His armies crossed deserts that killed lesser men, climbed mountains that touched the heavens, reached lands where his name alone could cause panic. And still, he pressed forward. Then, in the year 1227, during another campaign far from home, the great conqueror died. His passing was surrounded by secrecy and legend. Even today, his final resting place remains unknown. But his vision did not die with him. His descendants continued expanding the empire across continents. Trade flourished along routes that connected east and west. Ideas, technologies, and cultures began to mix in ways humanity had never experienced before. For a time, the chaos of conquest gave way to stability. Historians would later call this era the Pax Mongolica. Yet no empire can escape the passage of time. Internal rivalries grew, new powers emerged, rebellions ignited across distant territories. Slowly, the empire that once seemed eternal began to fracture. By the 14th century, the Mongol dominion had faded into separate kingdoms and memories. But history never truly forgets forces that reshaped the world. Today, Genghis Khan remains one of the most influential and controversial figures ever to walk this planet. To some, he was a ruthless destroyer. To others, a visionary leader who connected civilizations. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. What cannot be denied is this: from a starving child abandoned on the frozen steppe, rose a man powerful enough to change the destiny of millions. And his story reminds us that history is not written only by comfort or peace. It is written by those who dare to ride into the unknown and refuse to turn back.